Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience and good afternoon. Minister S. Iswaran, Minister for Transport and Minister in charge of Trade Relations, Singapore, Mayor Ahmed Abu Taleb, Mayor of the City of Rotterdam, Mr. Alat Kasselin, CEO of Port of Rotterdam, and Ms. Kwa Lei Hoon, CEO of MPA. Today, we are very honored to be signing a Memorandum of Understanding between the Maritime and Port Authority of Singapore, MPA, and the Port of Rotterdam to establish the world's longest green and digital corridor to enable sustainable and efficient shipping. Before we commence the signing proceedings, may I please invite Ms. Kwa Lei Hoon, Chief Executive of MPA, and Mr. Alat Kasselin, CEO, Port of Rotterdam, on stage to give their opening remarks. Ms. Kwa and Mr. Kasselin, please take your seats at the MOU signing table, please.
Hi. Thanks, Minerva, and welcome to Singapore, Alat. Minister Iswaran, Minister for Transport and Minister in charge of Trade Relations Singapore, Mayor Ahmad Abu Taleb, Mayor of the City of Rotterdam, welcome to Singapore, and Alat Kastelin, CEO of Port of Rotterdam. Distinguished guests and partners who are here in the room with us, I'm really honored to be here today representing the Maritime and Port Authority of Singapore to sign an MOU with the Port of Rotterdam. And today, as what Minerva mentioned earlier, we are establishing the world's longest green and digital corridor to enable sustainable and efficient shipping. Now, these green and digital corridors to connect like-minded ports around the world was one of the key recommendations during the Singapore Maritime Week, when the International Advisory Panel, the IAP, set up by the Ministry of Transport and MPA, met this year in April. This IAP, which is chaired by Minister Iswaran, had identified digital and green corridors as important enablers to build more connected, resilient, and green supply chain. And I recall Alat was here in Singapore in April as well, and we had a meeting. And we decided that we want to establish such corridors because it will allow us to support first movers to pilot these solutions quickly and also allow us to ultimately proliferate for wider adoption. And this definitely complements the work of the IMO to reduce GHG emissions for international shipping and accelerate maritime digitalization. It also complements what Singapore has laid out in our efforts with the Clydebank Declaration, as well as in the Maritime Singapore Decarbonization Blueprint 2050. So over the past 4 months, Alat's team and MPA's team have been working through all the details, and we also managed to get 10 other organizations on board, and many of you are here today present. And it all took efforts within 4 months to get the MOU out. So really glad today to be able to sign this MOU. Just a little bit more details on the MOU. First, it's bringing both digital and green routes together. It's also bringing together stakeholders from the entire value chain. And more importantly, it also will allow and create digital trade lane to share standards, supply chain data, and electronic documentation in an easy and secure manner. So we thank all our partners, including BP, CMA CGM, Digital Container Shipping Association, Google Cloud, Maersk, MSC, Ocean Network Express ONE, PSA and Shell for your support. Special thanks also to the Global Center for Maritime Decarbonization and the Maersk McKinney Moller Center for Zero Carbon Shipping for your participation, and also for running today's stakeholder workshop, which I understand took place in the morning and will continue on later in the afternoon. So this partnership, Alat, symbolizes our commitment between Rotterdam, Singapore, and our industry towards the future of maritime supply chain, and I look forward to actualizing this vision together. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Ms. Kwa, for those inspiring words. Mr. Kasselin, please.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Lei Hoon, it's a sincere pleasure to be here in Singapore again. It's a city I have visited since the mid-80s, and I've seen fantastic developments materializing. And it's also a pleasure to be here because there's so many aspects I recognize in the city coming from the city of Rotterdam. We're both port cities, and we've both created prosperity by being engaged in international trade and connecting and reaching out to various partners and parties across the globe. And that's exactly what we aim to achieve with this co-creation and understanding and collaboration, is to sketch a new era of the maritime sector where the past has provided us with these great successes in both locations. And we now aim to draft this new chapter in the maritime sector. And why is that necessary? Well, it's necessary because traditionally the maritime sector has been relatively conservative. And I might be offending someone, which is not my nature and nor intent. But you could argue that the maritime sector has been relatively conservative in approaching and addressing the climate change challenges. And this opportunity that we now have is not so much to boast upon the longest green and digital corridor, 15,000 miles, I believe it is. It's even a long distance. But it's more to recognize that in order to create change, one needs to collaborate, because the challenges are so formidable that an entity, whether it's a port, whether it's a liner, whether it's a fuel supplier, whether it's a think tank, whether it's an NGO, whether it's a city, they're so complex that you need to collaborate. You need to collaborate across value chains, you need to collaborate across regions and areas and business activities. And that is what we aim to achieve. And I would also argue that in order for the maritime business to sustain its credentials with and in society, we need to move in this direction as well. We've seen across the globe confidence lost in traditional businesses because they did not play into the developments of society and the expectations of society. And I'm tremendously pleased and energized by the acknowledgement of internationally renowned corporates, enterprises that have now also embraced this opportunity to be a force for good and to pave the way and create pathways for others to follow suit. And I think this collaboration between Singapore, Rotterdam, and the liners, and the fuel suppliers, and the think tanks actually will allow us to make an exponential step change in our challenge and greening and digitizing the supply chain. And if that is successfully achieved, then clearly we will reach out to other ports, we will reach out to other liners, we will reach out to other entities and organizations, because this is not a journey that we seek to embark upon on our own, but only for the mere fact that now it's manageable. With these like-minded organizations, we can make step changes and progress that we couldn't do otherwise in global institutions and from a global perspective. But the intent, of course, is once we have achieved success, that we will reach out and share our information, our knowledge, our lessons learned, the do's and the don'ts with each and every one who has confirmed an appetite to have that understanding. And I look forward to being able to say in a couple of years' time that this actually is a landmark starting point of decarbonizing and digitizing the supply chains, making it more efficient, making it less costly, making less of an impact on the carbon footprint, and actually creating pathways that will ultimately have a zero emission profile. So I'm very excited. I'm also hugely energized by the support MPA and your team has provided our team. I'm energized by the acknowledgement of the enthusiasm of the other partners alongside, and I can only hope for further successes to be celebrated. And thank you for hosting us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kaselain. May we now invite Minister Iswaran and Mayor Abu Taleb on stage to take their place as witnesses for the MOU signing. Minister and Mayor, please. Okay, Is everyone in place? May I now invite Ms. Kwa and Mr. Kasserlein to initial on each page of the MOU. Mr. Kasserlein, please initial on the left side, and Ms. Kwa on the right, please. And your signature will be required on the final page of the documents. And may I invite Mr. Iswaran and Mayor Abu Taleb to witness this historic signing between Singapore and Port of Rotterdam. Yep, after both parties have signed, we will need to swap your documents, and then we commence the initialing and signing on the second copy. Thank you so much. May I now invite Ms. Kwa and Mr. Alat to hold up the documents, and then we will have a quick photo taking of the four key VIPs today. You can remain seated for the first photo. Okay, and we now have another photo with a placard that was designed by the Port of Rotterdam. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause, please. Okay, and just the last photo opportunity, could we invite all our participants from the stakeholder workshop to please make their way up on stage for the photo? Mr. Mayor and Minister, would you like to join the photo with the stakeholders, or are you... Ambassador Vono, would you like to join the photo as well? Yeah, could we have everyone kind of squeezing together, and then maybe ladies in front?
We just need to know where to go. Just tell me where to go.
Okay, I think we are good to remove our masks, and then Thank you so much, everyone. And a big round of applause for the ports of Singapore and Rotterdam. So a very warm thank you to all our distinguished guests and partners who have joined us for this event. We have now come to the official end of this afternoon's proceedings. May I wish you all a very pleasant afternoon ahead, and to all our overseas guests, a good stay in Singapore and safe travels. For all stakeholders who will be staying on for the stakeholder workshop, do give us a few moments. Thereafter, we will invite you to take your seats at the U-shaped table in front of the room. Thank you so much, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.